What she's fantasizing about in bed and what she's actually telling you are probably two very different things. You might be surprised to find out that her secret desires aren't all that uncommon. From the mild to the wild, I'm going to be pulling back the curtain on what women secretly crave in the bedroom, but rarely voice, and I'm going to be spicing it up with a little science-backed research. Hold on tight because I'll be dropping some fun, funny, and sometimes jaw-dropping facts along the way. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what women secretly want from you sexually. I'm Dr. Fiona Gray, your trusted men's health advisor. Here's what I'm covering. First, the 10 desires women have but won't ask for. From BDSM to sensory deprivation, and why social conditioning makes them hesitant to voice these fantasies. Then, the psychological and neurological science behind why these desires work, from dopamine release to stress reduction. And finally, how creating a safe space for her to express these needs strengthens your relationship through improved communication and trust. If you skip creating psychological safety first, she'll never tell you what she really wants. That's the mistake most men make. Hit that subscribe button because what we're covering today is based on female sexual psychology research, neuroscience studies, and the honest truth about what women desire but rarely admit. Let's dive in. The number one thing women want but are too shy to ask for is BDSM, which should be no surprise to anyone. It stands for bondage, dominance, discipline, submission, sadism, and masochism, or any combination of the above. This is all about trust, control, and play. And research shows that about 47% of women have fantasized about being tied up. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Research shows that BDSM practitioners actually have lower levels of stress and better communication skills than their vanilla counterparts. Perhaps all of those safe words are paying off. When you engage in BDSM, you're forced to communicate explicitly about boundaries, desires, and limits. That kind of clear communication translates to other areas of relationships as well. But here's why women don't ask for this. Society tells women they should be proper, nice, and not too sexually aggressive. Admitting she wants to be tied up or dominated goes against everything she's been taught about being a good girl. She's afraid you'll judge her, think she's weird, or lose respect for her. But the statistics don't lie. Nearly half of women have thought about this. The second thing women crave, but won't mention, is exhibitionism. Enjoying being watched while being intimate, or having sex, or doing sexy sexual things. Around 35% of women admit to enjoying and getting off on being watched while doing the dirty. And this is where it gets critical. Not so surprising is that the research shows that exhibitionism is actually far more common among men than women. But here's a fun fact. Exhibitionists have been found to have higher self-esteem and higher levels of confidence, and they are more likely to pursue leadership roles in the workplace. So perhaps the desire to be watched isn't just about thrill-seeking. It's about wanting to own the spotlight. Women don't ask for this because they've been taught that their sexuality should be private, modest, and hidden. The idea of being watched feels shameful, or to many women. Even though the fantasy is incredibly common, she's afraid you'll think less of her or that you'll share intimate details with others. Third on my list is cuckolding, or watching you with another woman. About 33% of women have fantasized about watching their partner with someone else. This might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. Keep this in mind because it connects directly to relationship psychology. What's really wild is that there are several studies that show that participating in cuckolding scenarios actually strengthens relationships by deepening trust and improving communication skills between couples. So it turns out the green-eyed monster isn't as scary and awful as we've all thought. When done consensually with clear boundaries, this requires enormous trust and communication. Women don't ask for this because it goes against the narrative that they should be possessive and jealous. Admitting she wants to watch you with another woman makes her feel like she's not enough or that you'll think she doesn't care about you. But the fantasy exists because it taps into voyeurism, compersion, and sexual excitement. Another desire women have but won't voice is sensory deprivation. A sensory deprivation experience can include anything like blindfolds, earplugs, or anything that deprives the senses and heightened sensation. And in this heightened sensation, sex can become even more intense. Over 40% of women enjoy or desire some sort of sensory deprivation during their intimate encounters. Remember this because we'll come back to it. What's a little bit surprising is that sensory deprivation has actually been shown to increase the release of dopamine in the brain, which is the same feel-good chemical that's released when you're eating chocolate or you win a prize. When one sense is removed, the others become heightened, creating a more intense experience. Women hesitate to ask for blindfolds or restraints because it makes them feel vulnerable and exposed. She has to trust that you won't hurt her, won't take advantage, and will respect her boundaries. That level of vulnerability is terrifying for many women, so they keep this desire to themselves. The fifth thing women want is wet and messy play, or what's called splashing. This is all about covering oneself or somebody else in food or liquid or basically anything messy. Think whipped cream, chocolate syrup, or massage oils. Let me clear up a massive misunderstanding about sensory play. Splashing taps into the senses in a really primal way. And research on sensory play shows that getting messy activates both pleasure and creativity. And let's be honest, who doesn't like playing with their food every now and again? Women don't ask for this because it feels silly, childish, or too pornographic. She's worried you'll laugh at her or think it's ridiculous, but the tactile sensations and playfulness of messy play can be incredibly arousing. Another desire women rarely express is role-playing scenarios. This involves acting out fantasies like doctor and patient, teacher and student, or stranger scenarios. And while it may seem unusual, it's more about the power play and novelty than it is about actually pretending to be someone else. Research has shown that people who participate in role-playing oftentimes do it to explore different aspects of their sexuality in a safe, contained environment. The seventh thing women crave is age play dynamics, specifically being treated like they're being taken care of or nurtured. Contrary to popular belief, age play doesn't always include sexual activity. Some women just enjoy being in a space where they can regress to a more carefree or innocent frame of mind, or where you take on a protective, nurturing role. What's crucial to understand is that this is about feeling safe, protected, and cared for. According to research, many couples actually feel closer and more bonded after participating in this kind of dynamic because it allows them to be vulnerable with each other in a new and different kind of way. Women don't ask for this because it sounds weird or creepy when you say it out loud. She's worried you'll misunderstand or think she has psychological issues, but the desire to feel protected and nurtured is completely normal. The eighth thing women want is a foot-related experience. It is a foot-related desire that many women have. In fact, 1 in 7 people admit to having some level of foot-related desire, and about 10% of the population indulges in some form of foot-related play. According to neuroscientists, the areas of the brain that control our feet and our sexual desire are located right next to each other. Is it a coincidence? I think not. No wonder so many people find foot massage and stimulation irresistible. The sensory cortex regions for feet and genitals are adjacent in the brain, which may explain why foot stimulation can trigger sexual arousal for some women. Coming in at number 9 is the desire for light spanking or impact play. This doesn't mean she wants to be beaten. It means she wants the sharp contrast of pleasure and a little pain during sex. Light spanking releases endorphins, increases blood flow to the area, and heightens arousal. Women don't ask for this because they're afraid you'll think they want to be abused or hurt. There's a huge stigma around women who enjoy any kind of pain during sex, even though it's incredibly common. She doesn't want you to think less of her. And finally, coming in at number 10, the last thing women want but won't ask for is being desired so intensely that you can't control yourself. This isn't about actual non-consent. It's about the fantasy of being so irresistible that you're overcome with desire for her. She wants to feel like you can barely keep your hands off her. Research shows that women's number 1 sexual fantasy is being desired. Not just wanted, desired. The feeling that you find her so attractive, so sexy, so irresistible that you're almost losing control. This taps into her need to feel beautiful, wanted, and sexually powerful. Women don't ask for this because it sounds like they're asking you to perform, or it feels too vulnerable to admit they need that level of validation and desire. But deep down, this is what most women crave more than any specific act. In summary, women's desires are diverse, common, and more mainstream than most people realize. Our desires are as unique as we are, and science backs up the fact that expressing them in a healthy, consensual way is good for both our mental and physical health. When you understand that 47% of women have fantasized about BDSM, but society shames them for admitting it. When you recognize that exhibitionism and voyeurism are common, but women fear judgment. When you learn that sensory deprivation increases dopamine release but requires enormous trust. When you discover that role-playing and age play create vulnerability and bonding. And when you embrace that being intensely desired is women's #1 fantasy, you realize that creating a safe space for her to express these needs is the key to incredible intimacy. Try creating that safety starting today. Tell her explicitly that you won't judge her fantasies. Ask open-ended questions like, what's something you've thought about trying but haven't mentioned? Share one of your own desires first to show vulnerability. Create a judgment-free zone where nothing is off limits to discuss. Start small with something mild like a blindfold and build from there. Watch how she opens up when she feels psychologically safe. That's when you know true intimacy is developing. If this opens your eyes to female sexual psychology, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and tell me what surprised you most about what women secretly want. I read every single one. Thanks for watching.